Hello, I'm Carl Stabe, and today I have Adam Coelho, host of the Mindful Fire podcast and creator of Ask What's Possible workshop. Thank you so much for being here. Can you
Great to be with
share?
you.
Yes, thank you. Can you share your 5 minute system?
Yes, so this is the practice of envisioning, and it's built on how your brain works. And you can think of it as thinking big about what you truly want for your life, giving yourself a chance to set aside the limitations, ideas of what's practical, realistic, all those things, just setting them aside and thinking really big about what you want. And then you can plant that and this is all based on the fact of how your brain works. So you can hack how your brain works to start to move towards that vision. And there are two things I want you to understand about your brain that can be summarized by the idea that our stories create our reality. And the way this works is that the first thing is that our the first thing is that what you pay attention to and how you pay attention to it changes how you think, feel, and make sense of the world. The second thing is that our brains are predictive, right? And so those two things really can be summarized as our stories create our reality. And so this first idea is neuroplasticity. Everything that you pay attention to changes the structure and function of your brain. It's sometimes summarized as neurons that fire together, wire together. And so if you think of any system that you've ever built or any skill that you've ever built, those things are happening through neuroplasticity. And so, for instance, playing guitar. At first, it's very unnatural even to hold the guitar and move your fingers across the strings. You can't understand the sounds, and you certainly can't read music. But as you practice that more and more, all of those things become well worn paths in your brain, and the neural circuitry associated with those cognitive, auditory, and motor skills become stronger. And that influences the second thing, which is that your brain is predictive. It's predicting all the time. And the research on this comes from Regina Pali, a researcher at UC Riverside, who published an article called The Predicting Brain. In it, she says that even before events happen, our brain makes a prediction of what's most likely to happen and sets in motion the thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and even physiological responses for what's expected. She goes on to say, in a sense, we learn from the past what to predict for the future and then live the future we expect. I think about this as we're telling ourselves stories about how our life is going to be, and then we're acting out those stories. So what this all comes together as is this metaphor I love is that our thoughts and seeds are like stories. Sorry. Our thoughts and stories are like seeds. The ones we tell ourselves the most and pay attention to the most are the ones that we're planting and watering. And naturally, those are the ones that grow. But we can become aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. And if they're not helpful, we can stop watering those seeds. And we can choose new stories to plant new seeds to create a new reality. And so that's what envisioning is all about. First, we think big about what we want. We can think big about what we want through a practice and a journaling exercise that I offer on my website, which people can get at askwhatspossible.com/Carl with a K. And that exercise asks you to think, if anything was possible and everything went better than expected in your life, what would your life look like? Right? And it has you right in the present tense as if you're 5 years from now, just describing how unbelievably amazing your life is. And so that is step one, because thinking bigger about your life, it's not just like wishful thinking. It's opening your mind and planting the first seed for that idea, right? I had an opportunity to speak at the Google CEO's leadership conference, and that started as a crazy idea that I came up with doing this exercise. And I had no idea how I was going to make that happen, but I moved towards that little by little by doing these envisioning practices. And eventually it happened. And I had this opportunity, and it wasn't exactly how I envisioned it, but it was pretty darn close. And so these practices, I think there are 5 or 6 main practices that I recommend. The first is journal about your vision. Sit down, get what's out in your head out onto paper, write as much as you can in as much detail as you can about your vision. This exercise that I mentioned that you asks you to think big about your life can be done for all different areas of your life. You can look holistically, you can look at your health, you can look at your relationships, your work, whatever it is, do it all. The more you do this, the more seeds you plant and water in your mind, and the more likely you are to start to see those things out in your environment because of your predicting brain. The second one is probably the most powerful, and that's talking about your vision. That does two things. Number one, it forces you to clarify your vision. When things are floating around your head, it's like trying to grab a cloud, right? It's just really hard to make sense of it. But when you have to put it into words to tell someone else that they'll actually understand, it forces you to get more clear. And at the same time, it plants seeds for you in your mind, and it plants a seed in their mind. So now you have someone else out there who's aware of your vision and can come back to you when something crosses their path that's aligned with your vision. That's how I ended up getting a job when I came within 30 days of losing my job at Google. A friend of mine who I had planted a seed with months earlier told me, "Hey, my team has headcount." And that's how I ended up on the Google Analytics Premium team at Google. The third thing is mindset affirmations practice. This is what I described in the podcast episode, where you think about, okay, my vision is this. I want to lead these workshops. I want to get this job. What mindset or belief do I want to embody in my life, on my journey to move towards that? And for me, one of those was the world is abundant with opportunity. I wanted to see opportunity everywhere. And so I set that as an affirmation. And after I calmed my mind through just some guided meditation or mindfulness meditation, I then said that belief out loud. The world is abundant with opportunity. Then I practiced visualizing in the past. How was that true in the past? What are all those times I had opportunities? Oh, I got a job at Google. Oh, I had this opportunity to go on a rotation in Asia, for instance. Then how is that? Say it again. How is that belief happening in the present? And then the future. How will that be true in the future? I see myself getting that job. I see myself getting inbound leads for my workshops, whatever it might be. But now I'm giving my brain evidence that that belief is already true. And what happens is your brain's prediction machine starts to look for opportunities and cause you to act in ways that are aligned with that belief. And little by little, you start to move towards your vision. Now, the next one is visualization, right? This is just visualizing, and that's a part of the practice I just mentioned, but you can just visualize, see yourself walking through a day in the life that you want to have, see yourself getting that job offer, feel in your body as you practice this what it feels like to achieve that goal, reach that milestone, whatever it might be. So those are, I don't know if that's four or five or what that is, but those are some practices that really allow you to, yes, the last one is mini experiments. This is a huge one. This is essentially you have the vision. What are small, low risk, low investment ways that you can take action towards that? Is there a course you can take? Is there a conversation you can have with a friend? Or a conversation you can have with ChatGPT to learn more about this and to try it on. And the more you do all of these practices, the more you take action at these mini experiments, the more you start to move towards your vision, right? Because a lot of people talk about envisioning like manifestation, right? And I don't have anything wrong with manifestation. I think they're two approaches to very similar things, but I like to focus on the neuroscience and planting seeds in my brain, and importantly, actually taking action towards the things that I want. You can't just
Hmm.
hope and wish that it's going to happen. You need to take action, whether that's in your own mind by doing these exercises or doing the mini experiments, talking to people, actually putting things out there and moving towards the vision by taking action.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to have the vision to be able to make it possible, but all the visioning in the world won't actually get you to take the actions to make it happen in real life.
Yep. It's not just gonna, I mean, it might, but it's most likely not just gonna fall in your lap. You're gonna have to go out and get it.
Yeah. Yeah, something along the lines of, the if you try something and you work at it long enough, eventually some form of it will happen, but you have to work at it. And I think you know, that's really important because yeah, if I envision myself winning the lottery but never buy a lottery ticket, it's the same thing. But finding a new job, okay, well, yeah, I actually have to go talk to people. I've got to put out resumes, all that. But to your point, though, if I'm doing it from a negative place, of course, it's not going to probably get me the results that I want because I'm not creating that vision of what could be and the possibilities of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to think about what you want first and foremost, and to think bigger about what you want, right? You don't need to be limited by your current constraints and your current reality. You can think about, what if I could do anything? What if
Yes.
money was no object? Because here's the spoiler alert. I used to do a lot of group coaching, and the spoiler alert to the group coaching was, you can or already do have all the things you want, right? Like, many of us are in a very, privileged and fortunate position. Whether we have a lot of money or a little bit of money, right? We are healthy, we're, alive, we're in the United States of America, and in some cases, in countries that, all around the world, we, can't either already have, like, if, for instance, used to say, oh man, I wish I could get paid for teaching mindfulness, right? And I was at Google at the time, and then I realized, wait a second, I already teach mindfulness at Google, right? And they're paying me, right? So
Hmm.
that's a case where you have already what you want, or you can go and change a few things about your life and get that thing. But it's always good to think really, really big and give yourself something that seems a little scary, and you'll be amazed how your brain you'll start seeing opportunities to step towards it little by little. And as you mentioned, and as I said earlier, it's not going to look exactly like you thought it would. But if you stay open, and you're not rigid about how it looks in the timeline that you expect it to happen in, amazing things can happen, right?
I love it. Yes.
For me, that's the
Yes.
difference between expectations and vision, right?
Hmm.
And that can make all the difference.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
My pleasure.